I recently got involved in a conversation on Twitter where it was suggested that I appear on this recent AETV presentation that's been going on for the last year, doing nothing but attempting to demean my religion and go and represent Scientology. And it culminated in a in a tweet by one individual, Sarah Daniels, that I wanted to respond to directly because I wanted to say a bit more on this. Here's the tweet. It says, she said, I think that any network would appreciate your opinion. I'd like to hear it. I'm sure Leah Remini would if you asked for edit approval. So here's the thing. The mainstream media absolutely loves to depict these stories of people who have been wronged, where their lives are tragically have been irrevocably impacted by something, that they now live these scarred and broken lives, and to that effect, I'm probably the very last person on earth that would make for a good interview subject on the subject of Scientology. I live a life that is primarily composed of activities of my own choosing. I have a good job, doing work that I love. I've got a family, I've got 3 beautiful children that love spending time with me outside in nature. I have been happily married for the last 17 years to my wife, whom I love. All that doesn't make for a good, like, corn and games type of a thing. But the worst part, in terms of my interviewability, is my relationship with my church. My relationship with the Church of Scientology has been overwhelmingly good. I'm a second-generation Scientologist. I've been a Scientologist basically my whole life. My parents before me. I love my interactions with my church, with the members in it, with the staff and so forth. I've also been a staff member for the church. I was a staff member for about 10 years at local, regional, and international capacities. Now here's the big shocker. My experience was totally positive. I loved the work that I did, and honestly, I found it really fulfilling. So, and the other part is that I've got 3 family members that still work for the church, and they love it too. So, so my experiences and the experience of my friends and my family just don't jive with the media narrative. But you can still try to interview me. So I was thinking, okay, so presuming I was interviewed by somebody, what would I talk about? I run a website, so I get questions all the time, especially when there's media on like this, of like, what is it like to be a Scientologist? So I could answer all kinds of those. I'd say, here's my core beliefs, or are there requirements that the church puts on me in terms of like what I must do on a day-to-day basis, or things that I have to do because I'm a member, or am I allowed to be on the internet, which is kind of a laughable question, seeing as though I'm a internet sysadmin for a major internet service provider. So yes, I'm allowed to be on the internet. Am I allowed to watch TV? Am I allowed to associate with non-Scientologists? Do I secretly worship alien overlords in some underground sept that I have underneath my house or something like that? So I guess I could go into things like that. I also run this Scientology parent website, so I have things that folks might find interesting. I've got literally hundreds of families that I'm personal friends with that are Scientologist families, and so I have a pretty deep well that I can draw upon there too in terms of experiences and things, and what is it like, and what do we believe, and what do we do? Are we allowed to use medications during childbirth? That's a big one that comes up for some reason, due to all the silent birth stuff in the media. Are we required to give kids a Scientology education? What happens if our kids decide on some other spiritual path? They decide they want to do something else besides be a Scientologist. What happens then? These are questions that I guess I could answer. I've written about it, but would be happy to answer something like that on video. Obviously, I'd like to talk about my experience as a church staff member. My wife was also a staff member when we first met, so we both got a lot of very different experiences, because she always worked in the area of church training and the actual teaching of Scientology scripture, and I was in other areas. I worked variously in personnel, but also spent years working on the church's internet properties. So I have a lot of experience on that too, so I could definitely talk to you all about that. My dad still works for the church as a counselor. My mom and my sister also work for the church, so lots of things. Ask me any questions you want. I got plenty of personal experience, but unfortunately, I know that A&E's agenda is, and their financial motivation is really tied to painting the church in the worst possible light. So all of that material that I just discussed would make an episode that would be nauseatingly good for them. It would paint the church in a nauseatingly good light. They would be probably very ill at ease watching people understand what we were really all about. So, but if somebody else wanted to be, in this day and age, actually brave enough to go against the mainstream media narrative, or at least ATV's narrative, and give a vignette on what being a Scientologist is actually like, I'd be all up for that.